Joining me on the Agents of Compass podcast today is Miami agent Amit Bhuta. Thank you so much, my man.
Hey, how's it going, Ivan? Nice to be on.
Yeah, of course, man. I feel like I should have had you on a long time ago. You're obviously a proud, endorser of Compass. I see you everywhere. So I think it was only right for this time to finally happen.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice to be on, like I said. So cool.
hmm So first off, we'll kind of get into a little bit of your background in real estate, how you even got started in it. I know before real estate, you're kind of in a sales type of um, role anyways. Give me a little more context in the backstory to that.
Yeah, so I went to school and college. I did finance, wanted to be a stockbroker, and it doesn't really work too well if you live in Miami to be a stockbroker. I didn't want to go to New York. And a friend of mine, she heard of an ad for salespeople wanted. It said college degree required. And we went to the interview. It was guaranteed salary for 8 weeks, and it turned out to be the car business. And so, long story short, I was in the car business for 11 years with my finance degree.
And then what was it about the car business that made you jump ship and do real estate? Were you just tired of what you were doing? Was it straining? Were you unhappy? What was it?
Yeah, so the car business was great in the beginning because I got to learn sales skills and get better at meeting people and building relationships, building rapport. But I was in management for most of the time, and I got drained. I got burnt out. I was working 80 hours a week, and it was hard work. It was much different work.
hmm So then when was that time for you? Like, were you, fresh out of college? Would you already have a family? I just like to know that because, for a lot of people, depending on where you are in life, that can make the transition either easier or more difficult.
Yeah, so I was single out of college. I just graduated. It was a few months later, and then I was there 11 years. I only got married 4 years ago, so I was single most of my time, in sales.
hmm hmm And now you could say real estate is also sales in a sense, but how much of what you took from sales in the automotive industry do you take into real estate today?
Surprisingly, a lot of that information. It helps with negotiation. It helps with a good salesperson. What I learned while I was in the car business was a good salesperson is only going to ask questions that they know what the answers will be, and they can guide the prospect in a certain direction for negotiation. And I use that all the time. I'm not going to ask a question if I think it's not going to be a benefit to that person or the situation. I'm going to ask a different question, and it gets us better with the sales aspect of real estate, which is, it's a small part of it, but it does help.
Because I feel like, most people, me included, come off like, hey, a car salesman, very pushy, will say anything to get you just to purchase the car so they can make their commission. How do you make sure that when you share, like, you talk about your experience in sales when automotive doesn't come off that way for you sharing advice when it comes to real estate? Because it is
Yeah,
very different.
yeah, totally. And I think I got lucky because the first day in the car business, I met someone and he was the best salesman. He made the most money. He worked the least hours. And when people came and he wasn't there, they would leave and come back. And so I was fortunate to see that my first day and realize that he did really well because he built relationships. And while I was in the car business, I did the same pre-Facebook, pre-social media.
hmm hmm I mean, now that social media is available to you, that's one thing I feel like you're taking advantage of a lot. I mentioned it right when we started that like you have built a very strong agent network across the nation. You are always, I feel like, visible when it comes to workplace, which is our internal communication between other agents. Is it work for you? Do you make it a part of your day to really jump in? Like your name is popping up everywhere when I log on to Workplace.
Yeah, so like I find that for me, it's part of my job description. And I do my best. I'm not perfect at this, but I do my best to help others and bring value to them. And every week I'm going to speak to other agents around the country for like 5 to 6 hours, helping them on their business, teaching them how to market. Going into that call, I have zero expectation to get anything ever. And I don't want to get anything ever. I just want to build a relationship with that person, a friendship. And because if I went into that call and I was trying to get something out of the call, I'm not going to be as genuine and authentic. And by being authentic, I speak to agents every week, every single week,
I know you do.
4 to 5 agents a week. So today, after this, later tonight, I'm going to speak to an agent probably for an hour to teach them on, Instagram stuff.
Hmm. No, I mean, like I've had a number of agents, come to me saying like, hey, I spoke with Amit. Amit would be a great interview for your podcast, blah, blah, blah. Like one specifically I remember is Barry Peterson out of Long Beach. He was like, yeah, Amit is so nice. I remember talking to him and he just helped me. Like, it's hard to do something like, I think what you're doing is gold, and it's speaks a lot about you. But when you spend hours and hours trying to help others, like sometimes you hear the quote, like you got to help yourself before you can help others. Where does that mindset come from for you? And like you said, you have nothing to get out of it, but the time you're investing time.
Yeah, so I think in life, I'm glad how life works. When you help others, even if you don't try and ask for anything, you get it. And I know you had interviewed Gary Vee in the past, and it's all that kindness that coming from contribution and doing that all the time. Because at the end of the day, it feels better. I want to attract people to me. I don't want to. I don't want to chase after them. And by having that mindset of helping, I've had that probably for about the last 4 years, because in the beginning of real estate, I was always trying to find that secret sauce and learn what to do and do what someone else is doing, but I wasn't enjoying my job. And by helping others, it worked.
Mhm. And again, I know you say you have zero expectations going into it, but how much of that relationship building has, led to a referral, or, someone's like, oh, I know someone that's moving to Miami, a meet that's top of mind for me.
Yeah, so since April of last year, 14 Compass agents have sent me people.
Hmm.
So it's quite a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and then is that the only advice you have for others who are maybe are trying to do that in their market? Again, just the no expectations. Is there anything you would add to that? Because I wouldn't want people to have this hidden agenda, like, you know what, I'm going to go help agents like Amit and talk to a bunch of them only because I want to get those referral back to me. 14, that's, that could be all the business I do for the year.
So if that's the goal, I wouldn't do it. It has to come from within. And it's like, if you want to help someone, you help. Like my brother told me a long time ago, like in Miami, the drivers are a little bit more aggressive than other places. And it used to bother me sometimes, even if I was running late, I would let someone in and to go in if they were trying to cut in. And I would let them in and they wouldn't thank me. And I told my brother, complaining one day, and he's like, dude, man, let him in because you want to let him in. Don't let him in for the thank you. And it was great advice. You do things that you want to do and not to get something out of it.
I'm gonna have you come to LA and test that theory again.
Oh man, yeah, that would be fun.
Another thing you mentioned in it was Gary Vee. I'm a big fan of Gary. I know you are. I think a lot of what you do kind of resembles what he preaches. One of those is being a media company before everything. I think you do a great job of it. I mean, I'm looking at video content, written content of yours. It's coming from all over the place. We're doing audio content. Talk about you doing real estate before having this like avenues of media, and what that was like leading up to it clicking in your mind that, hey, I should be investing more into this.
Yeah, so great question. And in the past, like I used to call expireds, I used to do all these other things that in my mind I was bothering people. And it would be like a typical Sunday night. I needed to work the next day and I wasn't excited about going to work. Now because I provide so much content, I do go to sleep pretty late. I go to sleep 2:33 in the morning every night, wake up at 7. But I do that because I'm excited about what I do. Sometimes my wife thinks I'm crazy because sometimes she doesn't do real estate, she does something else. But sometimes 3 in the morning, I wake up, I grab my phone and I write some notes of what I want to do. I can't wait till it's 7 in the morning to start working. She looks at me like I'm crazy, but that's the biggest difference. When you become your own brand by coming from contribution, from helping others, it makes you excited about it. All of a sudden you have a startup business rather than pitching someone on using your services in real estate.
Hmm. And if you can kind of take me back again, what was that point where you decided to jump into it? Maybe you started off with just a little bit, or you didn't go head first,
Right.
all in right off the bat. Can you
Right.
remember
So,
that?
yeah, yeah. So there's a company called Curator, and it's a marketing company that helps companies grow. It and so I joined them in May of 2016, and I know exactly the date. I know exactly when things changed, and it just gave me a whole different perspective on things. And by pretending I'm the consumer rather than the agent and telling everyone how great I am, I preferred with Curator and Gary Vee and all them. Basically, they tell the customer how great they are, and we are the guide, and they're the heroes. Instead of us being the hero. It doesn't work that way that well.
Hmm. You said you joined Curator in May of 2016, but even then, did you just wake up one morning and say, "Hey, I'm joining," or was there 3 months, 6 months, a year that you're like, "I should do it. Maybe I should do it. I'm not sure yet. I don't want to spend the money." Like, what were the reasons
Yeah,
why not that were in your brain?
yeah. So before Curator was Curator, I watched. There's the founders are Chris Smith and Jimmy Mackin. They have a show called The Water Cooler,
Hmm.
and they had that many years before Curator ever existed. And so I used to watch that a lot, and it was so different. It was basically sort of what we're talking about. And when they started Curator, I knew it was expensive, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. And then one day I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then I wanted to be all in for a long time. I was just scared.
Hmm. Well, yeah, you were like, dang, if I'm going to invest this much money, I want to know that I'm going to get something back or leads or something, right? Like, or else I
Exactly.
would just do more flyers or door knocking pieces, or I don't know what other options
Right.
you would take at that time.
Totally, totally. Like the biggest thing about real estate and most agents, a very, very high percentage of agents in real estate, is they want short-term ROI. They
Hmm.
don't look at long-term branding ROI because branding doesn't happen overnight. It takes months and months, sometimes years for it to work. But once it kicks in, it really kicks in. And most people will ask me all the time, they'll be like, hey, that video that you did, how many sales did you get from it? I'm like, I don't care. At the end of the day, I'm building my brand, and it's not just me. By me building my brand, I'm helping everyone that I'm working with, all the sellers. I'm helping them sell their homes quicker as well.
Hmm. Hmm. No, it's so good everything that you're saying. Um, when it comes to that, it could be a lot for one person to take on. You're doing videos, you're writing content and articles and stuff like that. Are you still doing it yourself? Do you employ a team now that is able to help you, and you just kind of, voice um, your, you inject your voice into those pieces? How much of the creative process are you involved in now?
So I'm lucky. I have a team. There are two other agents on my team, Will Lingell and Jade Kalbecker. They're on my team at Compass. Then, as far as the creative, I have a videographer and his team. And then, like for content, I probably write about 50 to 60% of it. I do all my podcasts. I do a lot of it, but I get a lot of help as well.
Hmm.
And
And then,
I'm not as creative as maybe I want to be, but
uh-huh.
as I do it more, I get more creative.
And then now maybe someone's listening and they're just starting out. They want to write more, maybe writing's their thing, or they want to do a podcast or stuff. Like, you didn't always have a team to help you. Do you remember back to day one, and what can you share kind of looking back for someone who maybe is on the edge, not thinking about starting or not starting?
Yeah. So the first thing is this: if someone if someone meets, so say I'm at a dinner and I meet someone and they're looking for a property in California, and I tell them about this agent who's incredible. I spend the whole night telling them how great that agent is.
Hmm.
Before they call that agent, they're going to Google that agent.
Most definitely.
And once if there's no content, you're wasting your time. So if I'm new, I would do a few things. First of all, video is so powerful, right? If someone Googles us and they see a short video of us and they see us talking, they see emotion, whatever, they're going to connect with us pretty quickly. And that could be on an iPhone. It doesn't need to be on anything. Also, since video is difficult, it takes long, and sometimes it's a little cumbersome, people get scared of making it perfect instead of just doing it.
Hmm.
Another thing is our podcasts. Podcasts are super easy. They're free. You can just download an app, Anchor, on your phone and just talk in your headphones. So if someone is Googling me and they see a video and then they see a podcast that's some of it is real estate, some of it isn't real estate, it's going to help. So if I'm a new agent, what I would do is I'll first Google myself. I'll see what shows up. And most people that don't Google themselves regularly are going to be unhappy with what they see. A lot of the information that pops up is stuff that they don't want, or there's not enough of the good stuff. So then I'm gonna also start. I would pretend I'm a consumer that wants to buy in that person's part of the country. And then I would Google. I'd be a consumer. I'd Google. I'd be like best places in LA or Miami or whatever. I'd see what pops up. I'd see videos. I'd see stuff. Most buyers or sellers, if they're buying, they want to get the inside scoop from a native. Okay. And a lot of times online, there's nothing like that. So if I'm an agent and I want to start creating content, I'm going to start creating the content, maybe even on my iPhone, on these behind the scenes places that only natives know.
Hmm. Hmm.
And by doing that, I'm going to start pushing it out. And the great thing about content is, with content, like say I write a blog, I can also make that blog a podcast, and I can also make that podcast, I can do a video of it, and I can do all the platforms. So a lot of times agents are so worried about content, but
Hmm.
when you do one piece of content, you can have like 5 things from it. So that's what I would do. I would pretend I'm a consumer moving to that place
Hmm.
and do those behind the scene things.
Dude, that's a great tip. I mean, that's this very similar advice that I share with our agents here. We live in all the coastal areas, so there's a lot of tourism where we are. I'm like, hey, share the private parks. What are the places that people like to enjoy if they're residents here and they're trying to get away from the crowds of people? Like, there's those pocket parts, those hidden places, the parts of the beach that are less populated that,
Right, right.
people that live here want to know because they just want some peace and quiet.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, Must see Miami TV. When I was researching, just doing my due diligence on you, I was actually found myself watching a few videos. I became a bit interested. How did that start? And, you've probably done a lot of spotlights now. How do you choose what's next? Is it based off of personal preference? Do you always make sure the places you're visiting that you frequent them just to speak from the heart? Or, is it connections? Is it people that run businesses that you're friends with? What is the creative concepts?
So it's a combination. In the beginning, I wanted to do the show for probably like 3 years, but finding the right crew to work with, I didn't want to just do it and to do it. I wanted to make sure it was good. And so I tell my sellers this sometimes, the amount of, if the sellers are married, and I tell them, go back to when you were engaged. You're looking for your wedding photographer and videographer. Remember all the time that you spent finding that perfect one? I've been doing that for 15 years, finding the best people. And by doing that, I'm able to create better content. So in the beginning, I just asked my friends, I'm like, where would you want to see? Person, place, whatever. Tell me what you think. I learned a long time ago that I'm a lot less smart than I think I am. And it's better to ask people instead of assume that I know everything,
Uh-huh,
you know?
uh-huh.
And by doing that, so like typically it was that. The last one we did actually a public service announcement because we wanted to try and make a difference besides real estate. So we did one on trying to save young people's lives.
Mhm.
And so we interviewed a doctor, and hopefully enough people watch it where we can actually make a difference on someone's life.
Hmm. And can you kind of share some of the feedback that you get from, consumers that watch it, but also maybe the businesses that you work with or spotlight?
Yeah, so it's pretty cool because it happens more often than not when I meet someone and then they're like, "Where do I know you from?" We knew each other. Did we work together or did we do this? And then I'll let everything go through the processes, and then at the end I'll tell them, "Yeah, do you watch the show?" And they're like, "Yeah, I watch that show. I love that show." And from there, so like the businesses definitely like it because in the beginning, I was trying to highlight companies that didn't have much advertising spend. Because if I go to a company that has enough spend already and they're very well established, they're going to think they're doing me a favor.
Right.
If it's a startup company that's sort of hot, that I think is going to last a long time, all their family and friends want to help them, but they don't want to give a dollar to them. So if we do a video and I do a free video for them and I spend all the money and I give it to them, it's going to go sort of viral because all their friends and family are going to share it because they don't have to spend any money, you know?
Of
So
course.
it's done really well with businesses, and businesses reach out to me. They'll tell me, "Hey, we want to be on your show." So it's definitely improved quite a bit since the beginning.
Yeah, I'm. That's what I was assuming that you would say, is that once it picks up steam, businesses would be reaching out to you because they see that as an opportunity just to get a free commercial for themselves. And obviously, the word of mouth is going to travel. They're going to ask their friends to share, and it'll just grow bigger and bigger. So it not only helps the business, but your name is attached to that project.
Right. And I'm hashtag the Indian realtor. So like now a lot of people when they're like hashtag or whatever, it's funny. Those little things make such a difference.
I mean, that's a perfect example. I actually wanted to ask you a question about the hashtag Indian Realtor. Do you think that has really helped in branding you? Is it a topic of conversation? Um, is it just a fun hashtag that you use, but it doesn't really have much traction? What has been your
Um,
experience with hashtag Indian Realtor?
it has a lot of traction actually. I've been very fortunate with us. Actually last week, the Miami Marlins baseball team and another company had an influencer thing, an event, and they invited me, and I was speaking, and everyone was introducing themselves, and I said my whatever I was going to say about me, and then I'm like, also, also known as hashtag the Indian Realtor, and everyone would laugh, and then they remember it,
Yeah.
and so just from people remembering it, yeah, it gets a lot of traction for me.
And was that strategic when you came up with that? And is that like an advice that maybe you have shared with other agents, that they should try to brand themselves or coin themselves with something similar? Or it just so happened that it just was, a little bit of luck that went into place and has now become what it is?
It was all luck. I'd like to say I was smart and I thought about it and spent a few days, but one day I was like, what hashtag can I put? I need another hashtag on my Instagram, and I just wrote it, and I was lucky.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, Nowadays on Instagram, a lot of agents are finding that it's, I need help, or I don't know what to post, or I don't have anything to post, or I don't have time to check it or engage with people. How much time do you spend on social platforms when it comes to your business? And for you, do you enjoy it? Does it become another task on your mind that you need to check off as part of your day? What is your overall just feelings and understanding of it?
So I love it. It does take time, and sometimes it is a check mark that needs to be done, something that needs to be done. But probably about a month ago on my Instagram, I started not on Instagram stories, but like on the grid.
Hmm.
I started pulling up deals, and I started up pulling old deals and then writing a story about each deal from the past, not making myself the hero, but just being part of the story. And I've got a ton of traction from it. And what it does is
From
it
other
does
realtors or just people in general, or?
everyone. And
Okay.
I'm not trying to sound cocky or anything like by saying that, but besides the comments and likes and all that, I've got numerous phone calls from people, text messages, and telling me, because every deal that we do has a story, you know?
Correct.
And I learned that just like as important as the first few seconds are of a video, when we write a story, the first sentence or two needs to be captivating, engaging. So I try and think of stories like sales that I've done in the past, try and figure out something that was memorable about the story, put the engaging part in the beginning, and then, finish the story. And it's helped me because I'm connecting with my audience much stronger, because I'm not the hero, but it's a story. And it helps that way. And what it does for me, it makes it less of a task, because my memories, it's bringing back good memories. And then what I do too is I randomly will send those people gifts a lot of times. And I'll be like, hey, this is Amit. Hope your 2019 is going well. I don't know if you remember me or not, but I thought you would enjoy having cookies today.
Mhm.
So, and that's it. So it's been pretty good.
No, it's very cool. I try to share that as well, that like, hey, the caption matters just as much as, the image or the video. And I think that's a perfect example. Like you sharing just the sales document, like that's not sexy at all. The photo's kind of boring actually,
Right, right,
but the way that you're able to, and the fact that you shared that the post still gets a lot of traction, that's because of the storytelling aspect that you're putting in the caption. So, I mean, I think that's a really great tip that I could just share with other agents and for people listening that you could take right now. Like that's already content ideas that have been done. All you have to do
right,
is
exactly.
repurpose it, and it's unique to you. Like no one else can share the video off of Compass. Like everyone can share the video off of Compass that they give us every week. Like
Right,
no one
right.
can tell that same story that you had with your clients. I mean,
And the cool thing, definitely. And the cool thing about that, I write the Instagram story, then I create a blog on my website with the same story. Then I put it on LinkedIn, I put it on Facebook. Then I do a podcast on that same story. And eventually I'm going to do a video and talk about it and put that on YouTube from
so,
just one piece of content.
so that one piece turns into 5 pieces. And how
Yeah.
much, okay, so here's a question for you then. How much of that content idea kind of has tweaks and little differences then based off of the platform that you're going to?
Okay. So,
Because
yeah.
so the reason why I asked that is like someone will post Instagram, share to Facebook, share to Twitter, share to LinkedIn. I'm like, yo, like you got to contextualize your audience. Like,
Right, right. So like, for example, like it's like reading Audible, listening to Audible rather than reading the book. When I do the podcast, I can get deeper into it because I don't have a limit of 2,200 or whatever characters on Instagram. So I'm gonna create more to it than each platform is different, like you said. I don't want to just spread the same thing everywhere because
mm-hmm,
that's not good.
mm-hmm,
But I also, with LinkedIn, for me, it's a little bit different because I have a lot of, so I have probably like whatever 11,000 people on LinkedIn that I'm on there, but a lot of those people aren't on my other social platforms, so they're not seeing that content. So I don't mind sharing that same story on LinkedIn, but on Facebook, it's going to be a little bit different.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, I think that's great that you're sharing that. Um, one more thing that I want to touch on before I let you go is as we were ramping up for this call, you said something very surprising to me. You said, hey, I really love what I do so much. Like if I won the lottery today, I wouldn't stop what I do. Well, maybe not because, you still need something to fill the time. But I think that was coming from a different place. If you can kind of shed some light on, just the love that you have in what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so like I went to a conference last year and we always try to think of what's our why? What's our
Mhm.
why? And one of the speakers shared his why. And I've been trying to figure out what my why is for a long time. And his why was exactly the same as mine is. So basically, he said that he enjoys helping people, but also getting the feedback from them that he's helping them. So it's sort of selfish. I am helping someone, but I like that someone tells me that it helped them,
And how it helped him. Why, how, what I
Right.
did. Hmm.
Exactly, making that impact. And because real estate, I have a lot of people in my family that are doctors, and just like they have a big impact on them, I know that every deal I do, I'm help. There are probably 50 or 100 people that are getting impacted by my decisions. The people that are going to be that are buying a house, I know in 10, 15, 20 years from now, they're going to be remembering during the holidays about all their great memories they had in that house. And I never, ever, ever forget how much impact I have on someone. And because of that, it drives me to want to keep doing this. I love it.
Mm-hmm. It's so good, man. This actually, there's one more question that's kind of selfish to me, and now I'm just curious. The fact that you are in Miami, I'm a big Gary Vee fan. He's hosted 2 years of Agent 2021, which is a conference around just real estate and those type of that type of people in those realms of business, whether it's automotive, lenders, mortgage, etc. Have you had the opportunity to attend? And first off, answer that question. Have you had an opportunity to attend?
Yes, and when I went, Curator, we had a private session with Gary Vee, so it was pretty cool. There's
Mhm.
about 60 of us.
And in whether you've attended 1 year or both years, is there anything that you can share with us that you've pulled away, like when you leave um, after the 2 days or one day, however long it is, that is still sticking with you now that resonates?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if we're kind and we help people and we stop making it about ourselves so much, that's the biggest thing we can do in life to make us as happy as we can be. You know, his kindness thing, as far as being kind to people, looking at things from their perspective. I would say like probably half the stuff I do or more is because of him.
Mm-hmm. That's so
So
good, man.
it's had a huge impact.
Mm-hmm. The last question I like to end the show on, and you probably know what's coming if you've listened to episodes. It's pulled. I'm a big podcast fan, so it's pulled from the podcast "How I Built This," and it's how much of your success would you say is just luck, being in the right place, and how much of it is because of your talent and the skills that you have.
So I guess I'm very lucky that I've met a lot of people that put me in the right positions. Like being at Compass is incredible. Meeting Robert Refkin, hearing his vision, meeting Gary Vee, meeting Chris Smith, Jimmy Mackin, meeting all these people. I was very lucky to meet these people, but I also, as far as skills, every day, like I told you before, I wake up like at 7 and I go to sleep at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'm trying to improve my skills without ego, and that's what I love about Compass. We're collaborate without ego. So by not having that ego, I'm able to learn more. So I'd like to say I am, some of it is skill, but it's a little bit of both. It's probably 50-50, maybe even 70 luck and 30% skill.
Very cool. There's no wrong answer, and I love it. I've enjoyed the time just to hear from you, Amit. And you opened up the invite when you said that when retreat is there in Miami, that I have a place at your home. So we'll see if I take you up on that offer.
Oh, I'd love to have you, man. Please come by. We have an extra room for you waiting.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
All right, awesome. Take care.